Hi, welcome to Remove Logic Radio, everybody. I am your host, Karen Ray Lacey, and we are here once again on another Thursday night. I'm so glad that you decided to join me on Remove Logic Radio Show. We are aired on streaming on Facebook, Fishbowl um, Radio Network, and also on Facebook. If you miss any of our episodes and want to catch up, we have our YouTube channel, Remove Logic on YouTube. And if you would like and subscribe and any episodes that you want to catch up on, you can catch us there. We're also stream on Google Podcasts. Um, let's see, Spotify, Apple Podcasts as well. So, anyway, thank you so much for joining me tonight on Remove Logic Radio. I'm your host, Karen Ray Lacey. And if this is your first time, um, why Remove Logic? I always like to explain that. It's such an interesting title to remove logic, but logic is oftentimes the barrier between us moving and going forward because logically we may think ourselves out of it, talk ourselves out of it, but God is not bound by logic or logistics. So I say to myself all the time, Karen, remove logic. And God usually blows my mind with the fact that logic is only my barrier. Logic is, of course, the framework that we place around something for our own understanding. And God, we know that God is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we could ask, think, or even imagine. So remove logic. And thank you to the Remove Logic community again for being here tonight. Last week, we talked about, um, let's see, the psychological impact of Donald Trump and his 100 days in office. If you missed that show, it was a good show and one that you may want to go back and look at because the psychological impact that we are all having, whether you voted for him or not, it is impacting everyone that he is back in office. And so just want to be able to encourage you during these turbulent times. Tonight, I want to talk about um, a transactional relationship and a transitional relationship. Because many of us are in a place of pivot due to the changes that are going on in the nation. If you're a small business owner and the tariffs are affecting you or will affect you because of the hike in maybe products that you will be purchasing or supplies or anything. But when you look at transactional relationships versus transitional relationships, either in business or personal, they are very different, and they're both necessary, but they have a different impact on how you live. As far as engaging with others, and sometimes the boundaries around those relationships. So we just want to dig into that tonight. Um, and, just kind of give how to identify those relationships and then how to apply them positively in your life. So, transactional relationships in the context of personal growth, career pivots. As I said, you may be in that place. As over the last few weeks, we've been talking about pivoting and the necessity of a pivot, knowing when to pivot, and then how to identify those pivotal moments in your life. Again, the nation is going through a lot of changes, and it doesn't always have to be about your a career move. It just could be a personal life transition that you're in, and just understanding the difference between a transactional relationship and a transitional relationship is crucial. Both play distinct roles in our lives, and each comes with its own set of advantages and challenges. So, I just think this is a good discussion to have when you're looking at maybe identifying where you are, the needs of where you are, and how to strategize and navigate where you are. So let's dig into a transactional relationship. Uh, these relationships are built around an exchange of values where both parties benefit based upon specific needs or goals. They are often uh, professional or goal oriented in nature. Again, a transactional relationship is built around an exchange of values, depending on where you are, where both parties benefit based upon a specific need or a specific goal. And as I'm saying that, again, with the way that the nation is moving, you may find yourself looking for those transactional relationships or even identifying that this is a transactional relationship rather than a transitional one. And we'll get into that. But you might be in a place where you're maybe more goal oriented at this time, that I'm looking at the needs that I have or the goals that I have, and how do I achieve these goals or accomplish what I'm setting out for, um, um, to make happen. How do I navigate this place that I'm in? And again, these transactional relationships are often professional or goal oriented in nature. The pros of a transactional relationship, they clarify purpose. um, Thinking about, as I said, when you're in a pivot or the purpose of the need of this relationship, a transactional relationships, they're straightforward with a clear expectation and they have boundaries already set in place. When I think about a transactional relationship, a very simple one is that when I go to Walmart and I go for a specific thing and I purchase that thing, it is what I'm going in to get, and then also what the cost of it is, and so it is a direct transaction. It is clear, is straightforward, and the expectations of this transaction comes with boundaries. And sometimes, as I said, there are each a transactional or a transitional relationship has its own set of advantages and challenges. And so the fact that it is transactional means that it has a beginning point and it has an ending point. It is clear, it is straightforward. My expectations are what they are for what I plan to gain, get, or achieve. And then there's boundaries around it saying that I'm not going to go past this point. And it's going to it's an end to end sometimes transaction or relationship. This makes it efficient and results driven. Again, it is a set of advantages in it, that it is um, efficient. It can be efficient, and then it's results driven, that I'm going to get this for this. There is another thing is it has a mutual benefit. Again, given the Walmart going in as a customer, and the benefit is I get what I went in for, and then the cost of that purchase, Walmart gets what it is to receive for my exchange. And so there is a mutual benefit for both parties. Both parties gain something tangible, whether it's a service, a product, or knowledge, or a financial reward. Again, a transactional relationship has a mutual benefit. Both parties gain something tangible, whether it's a service, a product, knowledge, or a financial reward. It also comes with maybe a short-term focus depending on the parameters around the transaction. These relationships are ideal for achieving specific goals, as I said before, or completing specific tasks without an emotional entanglement. A transactional relationship focuses sometimes on short term, depending on the parameters of the agreement. But it is ideal for achieving specific goals and completing tasks without emotional entanglements. That means when I enter in, I know what I'm going to get. And so there's no emotional attachment to it because it is transactional. And another benefit of a transactional relationship is professional growth or individual growth. In a career context, a transactional relationship can help build a network, gain mentorship, or secure partnerships. So when you consider if you're looking professionally, it is a benefit to gain a career context transactional relationship to help build a network. That's one of the benefits of a transactional relationship. It can also establish mentorship. It can also secure partnerships that I enter into this agreement with you with this expectation from you, and I'm going to get or give this in this relationship. Transactional. Now, the cons of a transactional relationship, it lacks emotional depth. I mean, again, there is no emotional entanglement with a transactional relationship. Again, we're talking professional, career minded, and goal oriented. So, however you want to enter in, but there's usually with transactional relationships, there is a lack of emotional depth. Since these relationships are value driven, they often lack emotional connection and are genuine. They are genuine because it's a determinative engagement, and so it's a genuine care as far as the relationship. I know this, and I know that. I expect this, and I'm going to get that. And sometimes, again, we're talking about the cons of a transactional relationship is how fragile it may be because it's contingent on one thing. Once the transaction or the mutual benefit ends, the relationship often dissolves. Back to the Walmart transaction that I go into Walmart, but that doesn't mean that that's the only place. So it can also be the fact that I probably can go to as far as another store, another source, another service. Again, we're talking about product, knowledge, service, or financial reward. And so it's not, the necessity is not that I continue in this relationship with you as far as the benefit or the advantage for me. I can also go somewhere else. And so those relationships are sometimes fragile, they are not long lasting. Again, the relationship often dissolves after the transaction is complete. There is a risk of exploitation in a transactional relationship. If one party feels that they are giving more than they are receiving, then also resentment can build. And so we look at that from both professional and personal. The risk of exploitation is that if this is a transaction, I have an expectation, but once the transaction is complete, my expectations were not fulfilled. Again, professional or individual or personal growth is what we're talking about when you're looking at a transactional relationship. I'm going to try to adjust my light because it is truly dark in here, and I got this brown. I have this brown on today, so it's looking a little dark to me. Um, but again, a transactional relationship is one that has an end to end expectation. Uh, it can be fragile because it is contingent upon that transaction. And then the limited longevity of it, because it's end to end. These relationships rarely evolve into deeper long term connections. Again, we're not just talking about a career move, we are talking also individually, because when, again, the volatility of the nation and where we see ourselves in the scope of things now, our relationships and how we build our connections are important. Why? Because when you're looking to either make a pivot, change for something individual that you may be going through, career, you want to look for relationships that are going to give you the advantage. And it's very important that we understand the difference between a transactional relationship, not only understand it, but to be able to identify it and then operate within the boundaries of that transactional relationship. Let's see, hold on one second. When we're talking about transactional, um, the fact that it has a limited longevity also is something to consider. When, if you're looking for establishing a business relationship that's going to be long lasting, a transactional relationship is what it is. And you may want to consider establishing a boundary or an expectation that's going to take you to the level or to the place that you have established that this goal needs to be completed and I need this to go on for a longer period of time. So those are things that you would have to discuss to make sure that your expectation and the advantage of what you're expecting, you're going to get. Again, it gives clarity of purpose because these relationships are straightforward. You have to be able to say that I expect this, I want this, I'm going to give this end to end transaction. But you do have to have a clear set of boundaries and clarity of purpose for this transaction. And so then we want to look at let's see, transactional relationships. Excuse me, transitional. So transactional relationships, they are usually, as I said, end to end. The expectations are clear, the boundaries are set, and this is what you're going to get. So now we're going to talk about a transitional relationship. These relationships emerge during periods of change or growth, which is why I wanted to talk about this. Usually, when you're in transition, the relationships that you encounter come usually in line with where you're transitioning either to or from. These relationships emerge during periods of change or growth. They help individuals navigate transitions. Again, it may be a relationship that you're currently in, be it career, be it friendship, and someone knows that you're in transition, and then they're there to help you to transition, to go from one point to the other. Or it could be a new relationship, someone you haven't met. Maybe they're the person with the information that's needed in the transition to help you. And so the individuals navigate or help you navigate transitions in life, such as career shifts. again, not just pivoting in a career, but personal changes or even emotional healing. Transitional relationships emerge during periods of change or growth, and they help individuals navigate transition in life, such as career or career shift, personal changes, or emotional changes. Or look, all of the above. It could be that you're in the place where the career shift has happened. I'm in a place where personally I'm not understanding it, because career shifts also impact our personal lives, or it just could be emotional healing. So, some of the things to consider when you're in a transitional or even looking for that transitional relationship, mentoring, coaching, life coaches are really popular now, and so you want a relationship that's going to help you to like build that bridge to walk over from this place to that place. So support during change. Transitional relationships provide emotional and practical support during pivotal moments in life. Transitional relationships provide emotional and practical support during pivotal moments in life. Goal oriented, these connections often encourage self discovery, remove logic, healing, and personal development. They're usually goal oriented, where we talked about transactional relationships are they're goal oriented as well, but they come to an end. But these relationships are built on self discovery. They help you to encourage that next step in self development, healing, personal growth, personal development. They also set a foundation for empathy and understanding. They're built on shared experiences. Again, you very popular now are life coaches and mentorships when you're in a shift. It doesn't have to be career, it could be financial. And you want to try to gravitate towards those that have the information. While I'm in this transitional state, I need those that can help me, again, like I said, to build that bridge to go from here to there. Transitional relationships have empathy and understanding. They are built on shared experiences or mutual understandings of life's challenges. To my Remove Logic community, that is one of the bigger things of why God gave me this space, that it is to help people who are stuck get unstuck. Those that maybe are in a transition, or maybe not realizing you're in a transition, or the need for a pivot, whatever it is. It could be health, well-being, finances, mental health, whatever. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I can say that this is a space to help you to attain information, life application, faith-based practices. But again, a transitional relationship is built on shared experiences, which is why we are here. We are often sharing a story from someone that has overcome something to move into something else, overcome life challenges, but just inspiring stories and that mutual understanding of life's challenges. Again, transitional relationships, they bring a potential for a long-term bond. They have the potential for long-term bonds where you, as the transactional relationship has a period behind it, but transitional relationships can be long lasting. They can bring about a mutual understanding that leads to a long-term bond. That means that I identify with you, or I've gone through this, so let me share this with you, or something to maybe establish a longer term relationship than that transactional one. While not always permanent, some transitional relationships evolve into lifelong friendships. Again, it may be just for the transition to get you from point A to point B, and that is understood. But sometimes the benefit of it, or the advantage of a transitional relationship, is that it leads you to a long lasting friendship or a partnership if it's business. And then again, some of the negatives of a transitional relationship is that the relationship may fade as the transitional phase ends. Again, some transitional relationships give you the ability to have that bridge to walk you from point A to point B, or point A to point Z, and they're there as long as you need that place of transition, but it may phase out. It may come to an end, which can be sometimes emotionally challenged, where that transactional relationship, it has no emotional entanglement. So you may engage and become emotional in a transitional relationship as the relationship phases out, which again, it did what it was supposed to do. The purpose was clarified and the purpose was served. And so you may be in a place where I'm in a transitional relationship. I've attached myself to this person as partnership, friendship, fellowship, whatever it is. But the phase of the transition is ending. The phase of this transitional relationship is coming to an end. You run the risk in those cases of dependency, becoming over reliant on the other person for support during the transition. So you have to have an ideal expectation of this transitional relationship. An ideal expectation would be to know that this is what is needed, and the boundaries were set for what is needed, and it may come to an end. So therefore, you won't be dependent on that person when the transition phases out. Um, it could have emotional complexity. What does that mean? The transition relationship can be emotionally intense, depending on the level of pain, the level of desperation, the level of healing. It could be financial, whatever it is. But it can become emotionally intense, especially if both parties are navigating their own challenges. So you do have to clarify purpose and identify the boundaries and set those boundaries. So again, emotional complexity is a probability in a transitional relationship, but unclear boundaries can further exacerbate that complexity. So the lack of structure in a transitional relationship can sometimes lead to misunderstandings or unmet expectations. That's why the boundaries have to be clear. And the two can get confusing. If I'm in a transactional relationship, I have an expectation. I know that this is this, and this is the end of that relationship. And it does not have the emotional entanglement. But then when you are looking at a transitional relationship from another a clearer lens, you have to have clarify the purpose, and then set the boundaries that they are clear as well, because unclear boundaries can cloud the expectation in navigating this challenge. And so then looking at some let's see, some other, let me see, what else that I want to talk about with these two. Oh, let's identify how can I identify a transactional relationship. When you're in a transactional relationship, clear identification would be to have a clear purpose. So you know that the exchange is, again, we said it is tangible. It is a value, knowledge, service, product, and has a financial reward. So you want to be able to identify what is the exchange, the tangible value of this exchange as I enter into this transaction. It's primarily focused on goods, services, benefits such as monetary transactions, professional services, or mutual favors. Define goals, boundaries. You have to define the boundaries and the goals in a transactional relationship. You definitely want to do that in a transitional one, but end to end, you know, these goals. This is my goal. I'm needing to learn this, gain this, understand this, receive this. These are my goals. Or the person that comes to you, they have their set goals and boundaries. And again, they're also goal oriented and with specific expectations. And you have to set those expectations, and you have to be specific what those expectations are, and you have to do that up front. It's detrimental that you do it up front, not get at the end of the transaction and say, but I thought I was going to get this. No, specifically state what that is, communicated up front. It needs to be communicated up front. Short term, they're short term in focus. Again, how am I identifying this transactional relationship versus a transitional relationship? That I need to identify, have a clear expectation of the tangible value that we are exchanging, focus on a clear exchange of goods, services, benefits. The transaction is professional services or mutual agreement. And as long as the transaction is going forward, is about the length of the relationship, the partnership. It is a mutual, it exists mutually between the two of you or whomever, but it exists as long as the mutual agreement exists. Once that agreement is done, we've come to the end of the expectation, from date to date, end to end, transaction to transaction, moment to moment. And it also has little emotional involvement. That's very important. How do I identify transactional relationships? Usually there is support during the change. It's a support in the transition. It usually comes with a mutual benefit, but there is a support, a bridge from here to here is another way to look at it. It emerges during the time of personal transition, either professional or personal. If you're in a place of transition and you are in need of that transitional relationship, that person that has this knowledge, just say in business, I need sponsors. And so I know that in this transitional relationship, I may get a sponsor, not necessarily just transactional, but I'm going to learn. I'm going to use their service. It's going to benefit me. And in this transitional relationship, it is it's offering not only a financial support, maybe emotional support, where you may teach me, I may learn something from you. It may ground me in a longer lasting relationship as I've entered into this transitional relationship with you. It has a shared growth, either for one or the other or both. It has a healing. Again, we're talking about personal. In a transitional relationship, it also has the benefit of healing. It focuses on self growth, personal development, or healing. And it's often driven by another way to identify a transitional relationship. It is driven by shared experiences or shared challenges. Emotional depth. It has a place where emotions can be grounded in a transitional relationship. Remember, in transactional relationship, I said that there is very little emotional entanglement. It is not just impacted in transactional relationships. I'm sorry, they are not as impacted by emotions as a transitional relationship could be. A transitional relationship, there's an emotional connection with that relationship. Again, it breeds empathy, it breeds understanding for both the life changes on both parties for how to navigate this relationship when I'm in transition. And again, those a way to look at that and identify mentoring relationships, um, coaching, life coaching relationships. If someone is a subject matter expert on something and you're in need of understanding that particular thing, then that person engaging with you breeds an emotional understanding of the level of where you are. And this transitional relationship is going to help you to gain a better understanding. So, identifying those. Transaction, you want to realize and know the tangible value of what the exchange is going to be for both parties. You're going to define the goals and the boundaries, know that it is short term, where a transitional relationship is more long term and can be one that is a long lasting friendship, relationship, or partnership. In the business world now, even in digital marketing, it's called collaboration. And you may collaborate with someone, and it could be a short term collaboration or it could be long term, where there is a benefit for both parties. And so when you're looking to collaborate, you want to be able to identify what that relationship is. Is this a transactional collaboration or a transitional collaboration? Mentoring and coaching, or any guidance you receive from mentors that you may offer, even coaching services, creates transitional relationships that foster mutual growth and learning. Both parties, both of these relationships are important. Transactional is just as important as transition, but it's important that you identify, that you know what you're getting into. Is this something that is long term? Is it short term? Is it end to end transaction? Both of them are vital for your goals. I don't know where you are. Again, this could be an individual challenge that you're facing, an individual transition that you find yourself in. It could be a career change or personal growth. But both of these are important. There's not one versus the other. It's just understanding and identifying, because this helps us to gain the advantage of the goals that we've set out, to know if this is transactional, this is an end-to-end agreement. If it's transitional, it could be a long-term agreement, and it does have and can have emotional impacts. Um, as we're talking about that, um, I don't want to just ask, can you relate? Are you either in a relationship now, that in your in the current phase of where you are in your life, where you can see this relationship is, and again, it doesn't have to be personal in this instant, it can be just personal growth. Where you are in your current phase of life, what type of relationship are you in? What partnerships are you in? And to be able to identify that will help you to gain a better understanding on how to navigate where you are. Another question, just want to toss out at you, is how do you identify Do you see any of these types of relationships in your life playing a current role in your personal journey, your business journey, where you are now? How are you identifying those roles currently? And what are your thoughts on this? Looking at a transactional relationship, one of the takeaways for a transactional relationship is that it's practical. It's a practical relationship, which means that it just makes sense for me right now. That this makes sense for me right now. I'm going to enter into this relationship because this transaction is going to maybe set me up for that transitional relationship that's going to lead me and bring me over to where my goals are. And so it's ideal for achieving a specific outcome. A transactional relationship is ideal for achieving a specific outcome, but often lack, remember, it may lack emotional depth. It may not be as fulfilling emotionally, but the goal will be fulfilled. And so you want to make sure that when you're looking at these relationships, if you are in a transition, you want to be able to identify the transaction of this relationship that I'm in. Is this transactional? Because to cloud it with emotions could affect the transaction. To cloud it with an emotional entanglement can affect the transaction. And then the key takeaway for a transitional relationship is, again, it offers an emotional support. It can be emotionally supportive. It's also goal oriented, just like a transactional relationship, but it's making the value is the transition. It helps from one place to the other. It offers the benefit of this transition is going to help you here, but it's also going to give a more lasting impact regarding the relationship, making the value during the life change a bit more long term and not temporary. And so, again, both types of these types of relationships are important, but they serve unique purposes in different stages of life. Recognizing their roles can help you set healthy boundaries, manage your expectations, and appreciate the value that they bring to your personal and professional journey. So, as we get ready to close, I just want to, just throw at you, what are your thoughts on this? Go over to Remove Logic page on Facebook and, leave me a comment on a transactional relationship that you may be currently in your professional journey or your personal journey, and how you are identifying what is your strategy in a transitional relationship. What is your strategy in a transactional relationship? How are you identifying your different types of relationships? Because when you're in a place of transaction or transition, rather, it is so important to know the types of relationships that we're entering in, especially in business. Some relationships, as the old saints say, you can go too far and stay too long. You go too far and you stay too long. You want to make sure that you set clear boundaries in a transactional relationship and set clear boundaries in a transitional relationship. Know the difference between the two and be able to understand and identify where you are and the purpose of the two. Again, both of these types of relationships are important, but they serve a unique purpose in different stages of our lives. I know that I am looking for relationships that are more reciprocal. Um, and it is not just a transaction, but transition. I look for reciprocity in both. You want to be able to receive as much as you give or better. where there is value not just in the service or the product, but in you as well. And oftentimes we overgive, we overshare, and we overdo, and then you end up depleted and less than, or feeling less than. Again, so it's important that you set boundaries in your relationships, be it transitional or transactional. I hope that something was said today in on Remove Logic Radio to help you um, in your personal growth, professional growth, business development, or your individual development. So, thank you so much for joining me tonight on Remove Logic Radio. I am your host, Karen Ray Lacey. Remember, I am a solutionist. So, I'm always looking for solutions. I'm always raising the questions, not just why, but why not, or why not better, and how come we can't do it this way, where you're not just stuck in this one place with a one thought, that there may be another thought that that may help you out. I'm intentional about uh, solutions, very intentional. I call myself a solutionist. So I'm glad that you joined me tonight on Remove Logic Radio. Remember, look at those relationships. Look and identify, is this transactional? Is this transitional? Is this something that is giving me a bridge from one place to the other that's going to be long lasting even after the transition phases out? You may be able to establish a good friendship, a good partnership, good fellowship after the transition is over. Truly understand that transaction for what it is. It's a transaction. I went to Walmart, I purchased this, and I paid for it, and I'm done. Just as simple as that. And it does not have an emotional attachment. Is an end to end agreement that we do not cloud our judgment emotionally and our expectations of the relationships that we enter into and engage in. I'll see you next week on Remove Logic Radio. I'm your host, Karen Ray Lacey, and thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. Thank you so much, Fishbowl Radio Network, for streaming. We will be here next Thursday night at 7 o'clock.